Welcome home, neighbors.
Welcome home, neighbors.
Hello, neighbors.
We're listening from
Arizona,
Florida,
Maryland,
New York, New Jersey,
Minneapolis,
California,
Utah,
Michigan,
Iowa, Massachusetts,
Georgia,
Canada,
our home resort is
Animal Kingdom,
Polynesia,
Bay Lake Tower,
Old Key West,
Riviera,
Boardwalk,
Alani Resort,
Hilton Head,
Boulder Ridge, Copper Creek,
Grand Floridian,
Saratoga Springs,
Beach Club,
and Wilderness Lodge.
and you're listening to
and you're listening
You're listening to my
DVC Points.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to the show tonight. We're really excited to have you here and to talk all about Walt Disney World and Disneyland and what our favorite things are to do at each of those locations out of the Disney parks. But before we get into that discussion with our friends, we'd like to take a minute to thank our sponsors for helping us to produce this show on a weekly basis. So tonight's sponsor is DVC Rental Store, and they've been helping our listeners with renting out their points for a number of years now. Do you need cash for a cruise or maybe for an Adventures by Disney like the one I just got back from? Then DVC Rental Store will help you to rent out those points and pay you up to $18 a point. Do you need some points for maybe a spontaneous vacation and you don't have any left? Well, then they're a great resource for renting them. So do you want to find out what this DVC experience is maybe like if you're a person thinking of maybe joining the club? Then they're also a great option for doing that and trying out all those fantastic resorts that they have in stock. So come join the excitement. Come rent, book, and save at the DVC Rental Store. So ready to get going now? Tonight I have a bunch of friends with me, all ready to talk about Disneyland and Walt Disney World. So let's bring them on in, Gina. First we have Steve and Nick. Hey guys.
Hello, everyone.
Tonight?
Sandy.
2 weeks in a row. I'm so excited. And then we also have Roxanne with us tonight. I was saying that, Roxy, you're probably like my DVC bestie.
Yeah, we love to talk about it and
we
just
do.
talk about anything, our kids, whatever.
Exactly.
Good
And we're
choice.
so thankful for finding all these friends through the My DVC Points podcasting community. So what are we talking about tonight, folks? Let's check out what we have as our first topic, discussing the differences and similarities between Walt Disney World Resort and Disneyland. So Nick and Steve, I'll have you guys start off on this. How about the ease of access?
For Disneyland, it's first, if you're staying at Grand Cal, you're basically around 2 minutes into DCA. We actually timed it in August. From our room to the new entrance was 2 minutes. Also awesome. The two parks are about 300 feet away from each other. So park hopping can easily be done in like 10, 15 minutes at most.
But I mean, really, any of the good neighbor hotels are also so close by. We're so into DVC and we love Grand Cal, but if you round up points, they're right there next door as well. Some of them even closer.
Yep, definitely. I think that ease of access is a fantastic point. What do you think, Roxy?
So I went to Disneyland in August for 4 days, and then I went to Disney World in September for 4 days, and it was really interesting within a month of each other. And I parked my car and never drove it at Disneyland the whole 4 days. Never went out to the parking lot. At Disney World, we drove every day and just was so much faster, obviously, because taking the buses, as you know, takes a lot longer. So, and bus, what is that? Disneyland, you're walking and it's super convenient. You definitely need a park hopper because it's kind of like you're just going from ride to ride. You might be going from park to park, but it doesn't matter because they're just so close. So I really liked the ease of walking from Grand Cal where we stayed. And we also were able to walk to downtown Disney.
Yeah.
And it's just so pretty at the end of the night going through a downtown Disney back to Grand Cal, and it's just seeing the stores and the shops and the restaurants and bars. It's so pretty, and it's just a great way to end your night to get back to Grand Cal. So I think it's so walkable, and absolutely loved that part of it.
The
Absolutely.
flip side, of course, is that the bubble isn't there. So we'll probably talk more about that later.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. As far as ease of access to both of them, I mean, it depends on where you're staying, right, at Walt Disney World. So you kind of can plan your trip around where you want to head up for those first couple of days of your trip, maybe do a split stay and visit something else at a different resort that's closer by. So that's kind of the nice part about staying at Walt Disney World and having ease of access to the different locations throughout Walt Disney World. As far as ease of access to and from Disneyland, like you mentioned, even if you're staying at one of the good neighbors, it's great. Or as our family did at the end of the night, it's just a little teeny tiny little Uber ride down the road. So that's also a convenient thing that you can easily do. Our last trip at Walt Disney World, we actually stayed at the Grand Flow in one of the new rooms there, and we loved it. We spent way more time, I think, than we've ever spent before at Magic Kingdom as a consequence. And so I think that's one of the nice things about being a DVC member is that you can kind of plan your vacations around where you're going to be staying in the closest park to you, knowing that we're going to be back again, right? So how did you guys plan out your last trips to Walt Disney World with reference to that? Did you find yourselves spending more time in each one of the parks that was closer by?
Yeah, we did that. We stayed at Copper Creek, so we focused on Magic Kingdom and then also Animal Kingdom since that was the farthest out. And then when we switched to Riviera, we focused on just Hollywood Studios and Epcot.
Nice.
We liked a bit of hopping. Yes, for sure. Resort hopping.
That's it. And I find there's a nice amount of kind of rest period that you can take in the middle of the day if you are doing that and you're planning your trip around the strategy of staying closest to the park that you want to visit on a daily basis. So this stays become really handy at Walt Disney World for that.
Yes.
And like it or not, I really like the different modes of transportation and the ease of access with those. And you don't really get that kind of flair at Disneyland in comparison, right?
Yeah.
You don't have the gondola or the well, you do have a monorail, but it's not the same.
It's not the same.
Not the same. No.
And then, the
boats,
the boats,
the boats.
definitely.
Like I
There's
just stayed at
charm
Old
to
Key
them.
West. Yeah, the Old Key West boat down to, Disney Springs. You just can't beat it. So charming, 10 minutes, but it's so cute. And just like you said, you do kind of miss that. I don't know, does Disneyland have minivans? I don't think so, right?
No.
So you do have the minivans. You have, so many good things. And I feel like at Disney World, this might be unpopular. I, a lot of times, do not even hop. I just, if I'm going to Hollywood Studios, I go for the day and it's so ginormous and there's so much to see and restaurants and good things. Like I just tend to just not hop. But at Disneyland, I can't imagine not hopping because it's so convenient. You have to have a hopper there at Disneyland. I cannot stress that enough.
See, I think that's a big little kid thing too. Because with teens like you have, it's a little bit easier to just kind of like hop around and do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas with, the ages of my kids, hopping around is still doable, but it's not as enjoyable. I guess you could say that they really like to sink their teeth into the particular park that we're in for that day. And with littles, I can't imagine how difficult it must be to do park hopping there.
Yeah, it's too much.
What do you think about that, Nick and Steve?
Well, I think that for little kids and older kids, sometimes that the transportation options at World, it's a ride in itself, and it's like an attraction. You get kids on the Skyliner, and they think that they had to rope drop it. They love it.
Yeah, no, definitely. So what kind of comments do we have going on there, Gina? So Gina says it's hard to get to Disneyland from LAX, but once you're there, you're there. At World, it's easy to get to and from MCO, but a definite schlep. Definitely agree with you there.
We flew into LAX. Yep, I can agree. But we flew out of Long Beach, which was amazing. I love Long Beach.
Cool.
Orange County is another great airport to fly into.
Yeah. John Wayne's so small. The security is like that.
Love it.
I can imagine. Sometimes, though, if you're coming from elsewhere in the world, it's not so easy and obvious to get in and out of those smaller airports versus LAX. So you're kind of stuck with that schlep.
Yeah.
In June, we were lucky enough to get a room at the Grand Californian for 2 nights. I videoed our walk to the new DCA, and it was 1 minute and 4 seconds.
Unbelievable.
It was amazing. Thanks for that, Rextina. All right. Any other comments we got there? No, we got Genie Plus going on next. Oh, I know which one I like better there.
No contest.
Exactly. So why don't you get the ball rolling there, Nick and Steve?
Well, first, Genie Plus at Disneyland is similar to the old Max Pass system, except for you can only use it once per attraction. It is $5 more, so it's $20 per day, but it includes Photo Pass, which is an
Yep.
awesome thing. You don't have to be up at 7 a.m. You can't buy it until you scan into the park.
Yep.
I just, when I rode every ride, I sort of kept track of how long fast passes, the lightning lanes lasted. They last most of the day for like all the attractions.
Yeah.
So I think overall, just a much easier system to use, like less planning than World.
Most
I think
definitely.
also, people
Yeah.
that are rope droppers like us, usually that really favors you when you can't get access until you scan in. Because some people at World will just hang out at their, breakfast restaurant or in their jammies at home and just making all sorts of decisions from their hotel room, where people that rope drop in are just like the same, camp. So it's nice to be able to get the advantage by actually being there.
Yep. Yeah, very convenient at Disneyland. I found, and you can get the next one when you're in line, right? Like once you scan in.
It's once you scanned or 2 hours. So
Yeah.
if you're paying attention, I had like 5 or 6 stacked at one
Yeah.
time. So
Yeah, I feel like you do a lot more there in that respect. Like it's totally worth the $20, I feel. Loved
It's
it.
so crazy they do different systems at the different parks.
I know.
You do. Now,
Yep.
correct me if I'm wrong. Is Walt Disney World is 2 hours? Is Disneyland every hour?
no, it's still every 2 hours. So
Okay.
it's 2 hours or after you scan in. So
Yep. Whereas
That's
at
great.
World, you have to ride the ride.
Yes.
So yeah, that's the part I didn't like.
Well, at Walt Disney World, it's kind of the same concept in the sense that you can stack them for later in the day if you wanted to, and kind of work at it, like you said, from your hotel room. So that is kind of a pro tip, or like a pro for those of us that don't necessarily want to do the rope drop in.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that kind of works out well for those folks. The downside, I guess, at Walt Disney World is that you actually now can only buy it day of, right? So you have to organize to be up at that 7 a.m. or even earlier, depending on what the busyness of the parks is going to be like that day, and hedge your bets as to whether or not you'll be able to get one of those Genie Pluses. And then from that point on, you're kind of like booking stuff as a 7 a.m., which can be stressful for the person who's doing all the bookings. So it's a plus and a minus at the same time, right? Because if you're on the ball and you're kind of like tech savvy, you can kind of manage to get as many attractions as you would like to get in that day. What I loved about Land was the ease of use. It was just it felt like there was always an availability for something. So I kept just hopping in, and we would ride something, and then there was something available in the next 20 minutes, and I would book something for a little bit further along our way, and not have to wait in line for hardly anything, which was fantastic.
And with the other park just across, it gives you all double the options pretty much. If you
Yep.
Exactly.
Totally.
Have any of you tried the Genie Plus with park hopping at Walt Disney World?
Yeah. Yes, we did. Sort of it gave you the automatically 1 o'clock, so we used it one time. But still, since there's so many people using it, you get later in the day, your options are limited. And like you said, at Land, it tends to last throughout most of the day that there's something available.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Exactly. When we were down there last, we did actually use it for park hopping quite a bit, and we really enjoyed the fact that I could hop into it and kind of see where things were at with that second park of the day, and book up a couple of things here and there, because we are rope droppers, so that made it nice in the morning. We would do most of our stuff in the morning, and then after that, take a break back at the hotel and have those things waiting for us in the evening. So that is a definite perk, I have to say. How are we feeling about that whole live system mechanism now versus the old kind of fast pass system and max pass system?
It needs tweaks. I mean, I understand where they're coming from. It needs to be tweaked a little bit. I think if they use max pass, where if I wanted to ride the same thing more than once, that would be nice. Even if it was on like a small upcharge to be able to do that. Since they're looking for ways to make money.
To plus it. Plus it. We're plussing.
There you go. Genie plus.
There you go.
And
that's the way to think
we
of
can't
it.
not compare ourselves to Universal next door, for you Floridians. Their system is so much better for their Ultra Pass. I mean, Come on, Disney.
I don't
I'm-
know. We'll see what they
and
do to kind of help out with that in the next little while.
yep.
So on to comments now. What were you going to say, Roxanne? Before we
I
get to
just
comments?
miss my fast pass. Like even the paper ones. I'm sorry. Like, the Running Man, you'd get into the park and one person would take all your passes
Yeah.
and run and get you. And it just seemed like a more fair way to do it. Like if you were there for rope drop, you should get on the good rides. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, to a certain extent, Disneyland is still like that, right? Because you have
Yes.
to be physically there in the
Yes.
park to be able to book it, which is kind of cool.
I like that.
So,
Yeah. So I'm
I
a
think-
little salty because you have to
Yeah.
pay for it. And,
Yeah.
everybody likes
Equal-
free stuff.
Yeah, equalizes the playing field a little bit more.
Yeah.
So Anna Lee says, night and day between Genie Plus at the
Yep.
World and at the Land. I would never go without it at the Land, but almost never get it at WDW. Much more plentiful options for Genie slots than at the Land.
Yes.
We had great
Yes.
experiences though at both. I didn't have any trouble booking the attractions that we wanted to book at World and at Land with both
Oh, good.
options. So I don't know,
Good.
maybe it's luck of the draw or time of year that you travel. And then we have Facebook user who is no longer Annalie because now Annalie is Annalie. Facebook user says, I agree Disneyland was easier than WDW.
Yep.
Yeah. I think maybe that's also because there's so many options at Walt Disney World. And especially if you're park hopping to decide
Yeah.
between the parks where you want to go. So Franck says that Genie Plus is great for stacking late in the day rides back to back, minus the 7 a.m. start time. I agree, but you can do that 7 a.m. start time from your, balcony at your DVC studio or 2-bedroom or 1-bedroom or wherever you're staying and have your morning coffee while you're doing it and watch the sunrise. So it's not horrible. So Holly says, we purchased Genie Plus for our length of stay at Disneyland because of the positive reviews there. However, we've purchased it at WDW and a couple of times and didn't have much luck with it around lunch. Most attractions that had long waits were unavailable for the rest of the day.
Me too. Same problem.
And then Facebook user says, I miss FastPass. I think we all do. And then Lauren says, Genie Plus allowed us to go on more rides than the last system. Oh, that's interesting. So Lauren,
all
we'd
right.
love to hear a little bit more about that if you want to comment below.
Yeah.
And then that way we can find out a little bit more about your experience with it. And maybe you have some tips and tricks to share with us there. And then
Teenagers.
Jen, so then Jen, Nick and Steve's Jen,
Yeah.
laugh out loud. Yep, teenagers were great to send for the paper.
Running Man.
Most
Yeah.
definitely.
One of the things I loved about the paper passes is, when you were done for the day and you were heading out, you
Yes.
give them to someone coming in. And
Yes.
It's just a great feeling. Like,
Pay
have
it
a great day.
forward. Yes.
It's so fun.
True.
I
It's
love doing that.
true.
We used to always do that.
Yeah, we did too. It was a nice thing. So what's up next, Gina? Attractions. Oh my goodness. I feel like we're going to be talking about this for a while. So again, Nick and Steve, why don't you start us off?
So we went last summer. We were in World in July and then went to Land in August and just really thought about the comparison. And for us, the similar attractions always win at Disneyland. Just Pirates is longer, overall just better. Like Small World has the characters intertwined throughout.
Yep.
Space Mountain.
Space Mountain is
Space
much
Mountain.
better.
You don't get whiplash?
Yeah.
Well, Space Mountain is like our Matterhorn. That's how we compared the two. But,
Yes.
But we also have Cars Land. We have the Marvel Land.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some great attractions like Everest and
I mean, Cars Land is such a complete,
yes.
immersive. You're there, and it's unlike anywhere else. It's just incredible.
Especially at night.
Yeah.
and the original dark raids, like just where it all started.
Yes.
So
We left a few
True.
for you, Roxanne.
That's awesome. Well, I have to say Cars Land is like one of my favorite all time. And just, when kids say things like, I feel like I'm in the movie. Is this where the movie was filmed? Like, that's pretty realistic, right? Marvel Land, we love the Spider-Man web slingers. We liked the Avengers, which is what the new Tower of Terror, I guess, right? The reimagined. It was so good.
Yeah, the Guardians
With
of
the
the
music.
Galaxy.
Yeah, the Guardians of the Galaxy. It was so good. And I didn't think, because I'm a big Tower of Terror, I was so excited. And
I liked
teen-
it
our
better.
teenagers, yeah, the music just pumps you up from the 80s. And, and it was just seeing the characters walk around Marvel Land was really cool. And
Mhm.
I loved like the fact that the most fun thing for us, because when you know the world so well and your kids have grown up there, and now to have teenagers to say, oh, and compare the whole trip. It was so much fun. Like, oh, that's different. At Space Mountain, how it's not behind each other, it's side by side, or the Pirates of the Caribbean is way different. And the Haunted Mansion looks so different. And so many rides are so different. Just to compare the world with the Disneyland was like half the fun. We're like, oh, let's see how different it is. Right.
Yeah.
And just so much fun to do that. And to compare the shows at the end of the night, they're so different, the shows. So I just thought that was part of the fun, was just the comparison. Like, hey, it's so different here.
It is. And that is definitely for a worlder the fun of it, to go out to Disneyland and see all the different comparisons and stuff. I have to say there are a couple of things that I like a little bit more at Walt Disney World than I like at Disneyland. One of them is the Monsters Inc. laugh floor. I actually laugh like crazy at that. It's hilarious. They do a great job at that. And I didn't really I enjoyed the Monsters Inc. attraction at Disneyland, but it just didn't have that kind of, comedy and kind of whimsy to it the way that they have it at World. So that's definitely one for me that's on my list that I prefer. Mickey's PhilharMagic. I like that better at World.
I agree.
Yeah. Yep, I did too.
That's one. And then there's a couple of others too that we have, a lot of great shows and things like that. It's hard to compare the Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular with the Indiana Jones attraction there, because they are kind of different from each other. And one's really, really thrilling, and the other one is just an amazing spectacle to just watch. It definitely is one of my favorite stage shows there.
And the Incredicoaster. I mean, that's just so much fun. I just love that. That was one of my favorites for the week too.
It is. But how do we feel about Haunted Mansion? I kind of dig the Haunted Mansion at World way better than the one at Land. I don't know about you guys.
I have to go with Land, but also because
we have to have the overlay though.
We get the Nightmare Before Christmas overlay.
That's true.
Yes.
But World has some amazing rides that you don't have at Land. You got Expedition Everest, Flight of Passage, Cosmic Rewind, Remy, Slinky Dog, Seven Dwarfs. I mean, so many, and soon Tron. So as much as I love all the rides at Land, there's definitely serious content at World that's not there.
And the big castle. Cosmic Rewind is now my new favorite coaster anywhere. It's incredible.
That was amazing. I can't believe that.
It was incredible. So definitely there's that. And then, of course, there's Figment.
Yes.
Oh, love Figment.
Figment, yes.
And you also have the big castle. We have the big castle.
Bigger.
Yeah.
Bigger.
Yep. And, World Showcase. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I really did miss my World Showcase when I was at Disneyland. And I miss Hollywood Studios. That's I'm a big Hollywood Studios person. I just like having the whole park and the Brown Derby and my little routine. We go on Rock and Roller Coaster, then Tower, and then we go Brown Derby and rope drop for our margarita flight. So we have our little routine
and for now we have Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway for now.
Yeah, that's true. I'm still missing the Great Movie Ride. Don't even get me. It's just like the paper fast passes. We're not going to go there, but
I was kind of sad to see that we don't have as many characters in Galaxy's Edge at Walt Disney World as they do at Disneyland, and I don't quite know why they don't feel like we can handle characters at World. Like, is there a reason for it that we can't have them walking around and roaming around? We got to meet R2-D2 out there in Disneyland and a bunch of other characters too, which was really fun. They were just there. It was fantastic. So
I feel like World Showcase and all the festivals at Epcot really give a adults only option that doesn't really exist at Land. You can, but Epcot definitely has that option for adults.
Yeah, definitely.
That's true. So what are the folks saying in the chat? So Jen says Disneyland definitely has better. Okay. Sorry. Disneyland definitely has the better pirates, I think is what she meant to say. And then Gina says, I agree with Stephen Eck. Of course you do, Gina. And then Frank says, at the Land, you sit side by side on Space Mountain and single file on Splash. At the World, it's the opposite. Something more classic than the outdoor boats. Yes. Land's Small World. And Mr. Toad, I love Mr. Toad. That was like my favorite when I was little.
You know what I loved about Splash Mountain at Disneyland? When I looked, when I was at the very top and I looked, you could see all the beautiful mountains and peaks because they're so beautiful in California and this brown, beautiful mountains. And I'm like, oh my God, that was so nice.
That is cool. Most
view
definitely.
up there was amazing.
Holly says we've been to World so many times. We're excited to see the similarities and differences between the two locations in March.
Yeah.
You're going to love it. I can't wait to follow along with you, Holly, and the whole family. It's going to be amazing. And then Dan says, I can't wait to go to Disneyland, but they don't have Epcot or Animal Kingdom.
Yeah,
Don't worry.
I missed the
We'll take care of.
safari ride.
Yeah. And then Gina says, at World, I prefer World Showcase. Epcot has a
Yes,
suite
missed my World
there.
Showcase.
And then Chad says, Land greater than World, Villa Grand Californian is greater than
them
all.
all. Wow.
Chad Pennicuff, never heard of him. That's right.
Who's that random guy on Facebook? Never heard of this guy.
Facebook user Chad. Who? Lauren says, I like Haunted Mansion at Disney World more than at Disneyland. You and I both, Lauren. You and I both. I like that room with all the footprints. I don't know. There's something kind of fun and weird and creepy about it all at once. And then Rastina says, love Space Mountain at the Land, but it is so rickety at the World. World has a better Splash Mountain. That's true. Yep. And Radio Springs Racers was a favorite.
I love Radio.
I guess Radio Springs Racers is better than Test Track.
And Space Mountain at Disneyland is so smooth. Like you're not like jerked. Like you're not. I literally can't stand that. I literally feel like it gives you a.
My children are spoiled now. They got off of the one at World and went, that was interesting compared to Land.
Yeah, too rough.
They're little. Like they should be like, woohoo, roller coaster. And they're like, the one at Land's better.
It's not there all the time, but I prefer soaring over California to World.
Oh,
yeah.
Why is it different? Like
it's the old one, right?
It's the old one,
the original.
All right.
Just over California destinations, you get that orange smell. It's delicious. And Goofy Sky School. It's one of our favorites.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about jerky rides.
That's right. The most terrifying ride out of anywhere, though.
Oh my gosh, yes.
The Wheel of Death.
Yeah.
I
didn't go on that.
Swinging gondolas. Holy crap.
I love it. He does not like
Evie. Poor Evie. Tama and Jacob went on the regular one, and Evie was like, no, I want to go on the one that like dropped. I was like, okay, no problem.
Yeah.
And we got onto it, and she put on her very bravest face, and she said, no, I'm going to sit across from you, Mommy. And the poor people who were seated on either side of us, it took one drop, and then I was over with her. Because it was just, and it like, she had to hold my hand. I'm kidding.
Yes. You're like, ooh.
Should take care of me. It's a pretty crazy drop, I have to say. When you're not expecting it and you're not quite sure what the intensity is going to be, it's a pretty intense ride. It is the wheel of scary, and I won't say death, but the wheel of scariness. So what else do we have to discuss? Food. Who doesn't love a food discussion?
Yum.
So I'll let you take that one away, Nick and Steve. Let's see what you think about that.
Well, I'll start off with reservations. For World, it is so nice that you can book for the length of your trip once you hit your 6-day mark. At Land, it's every single day. So
I
hated that.
It's
terrible. Which at least being on the West Coast, that's a little bit easier than getting up at 3 a.m. for the Florida reservations.
Yeah.
We feel that for Land, there's better overall quick service options.
The quality.
Yes.
The quality.
Mm-hmm.
World definitely wins for variety and like sit down table service.
And availability tends to be better at Land too. It's not quite as cutthroat.
I don't know about that.
Really?
What did you think?
Good luck getting
Blue.
Couldn't get Blue Bayou to save my life. You got it, right, Sandy?
I got it, but Pirates was closed. So who wanted to get Blue Bayou when Pirates was closed?
Wow. And isn't that
the
only?
To see the test boats though?
You did, okay. And isn't that the only alcohol option, like Blue Bayou? There's not.
Well, and also, what's
Club 33?
Well, yeah, I was thinking Star Wars Land. Galaxy's Edge.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's Ogas.
Ogas. Okay, so that's it. Yeah. Those two. Yeah, so that's different.
And well, Disneyland's churros, mic drop, the best.
Oh my god,
so much better
with the dipping
sauce.
Churros
there, and we were just like,
oh no, they were amazing. They're warm. They're literally warm.
Maybe we're just not churro people. Period.
That could be.
No, it had different sauces. Oh yes, they were amazing.
The Buzz Lightyear Caliente churro in DCA is delicious.
And the variety of churros is crazy. It's pretty awesome.
Unbelievable. There's so many different ones.
Yeah.
That's
definitely.
amazing.
And what do you think, Roxanne? Which one are you siding with?
Well, we did a lot more counter service, quick service in Disneyland. because there's such good choices. I was very impressed with their counter service, quick service. And when we go to Disney World, we always do sit down. We don't do a lot of counter service, so that was a nice change. And it was, you save a lot of money by doing that, obviously. And I did like that. Now, one of the things I noticed was that obviously you don't have the variety, right? Because you can anything in Disney World, like, there's just so many restaurants. I felt like when I was looking at the Disneyland, I could get for sit downs, like the more expensive ones, but the cheaper options are really hard to get, I felt like.
Yeah.
So the more, moderately priced go really quick. So I don't know. When you're a family of 5, do you want to spend $50 an entree? You're at $300, $400 with tax and tip and alcohol, and it's just a lot if you do that every night. So I felt like those were really plentiful when I was every day going on, which was annoying to get those 4 days. I like what Steve and Nick were saying. 60 days, you book it for the whole week. You might switch a little bit, and with the month or two before or whatever, but but it's so nice to like lock something in 60 days,
And you can always book a couple of things and drop later. But, also at World, you got Gideon's at World. I mean,
I just went there.
Gina's going to talk, I'm sure, about an upcoming option for treats.
Yeah, you're getting a new treat there.
Yep, finally did Gideon's.
I would have to say, I much prefer the character dining options at Walt Disney World to Disneyland. They've got better character meals per se.
Topolino's.
Yep.
Even between like Topolino's and Ohana's, and now that they're bringing back Crystal Palace, and we're going to get Winnie the Pooh and Friends back, which is going to be really fun as well. Hoping that those princesses come back sometime soon as well. But there's just, I don't know, the character interactions are just a little bit different there, and I found that the food was better at those restaurants too, compared to the one that we had done a couple of them at Disneyland, and I wasn't so fond of the food out there compared to the ones that are at World.
Like storytellers.
We did a lot of
goofies.
exactly. We did a lot of quick service as well. Yeah. And even there, I don't know, I found that like Disney World has interesting quick service options, even if you're just at the resorts. So I think it's just a question of more spots that are available versus at Disneyland.
Yeah. Yeah, you just got the quantity, as opposed, I mean, you can eat at so many places at, at Disney World, you can't even do them all. It takes you so,
exactly.
Yeah.
It's so hard to do them all. Yeah.
So what are folks saying in the chat? So you are right. Tonga toast. 100% Tonga. My favorite. And then Gina was saying that churros at Disneyland are way better because they're fresh. I just don't think we're a churro family. I think that's what it is. We're a Dole Whip family. I'm siding with Chad on this.
Yes.
We got that at Land too. Dole Whip.
I know. We stood in line forever for a Dole Whip. So then we have Gina that says quick service at Disneyland is so good. And so that's what we've got as far as comments on the food. So overall pros and cons, folks. What are we thinking, Nick and Steve?
For Land, it's just everything's really compact. You have downtown Disney, you have both parks all within walking distance. Also, it's Walt's Park. There's a lot of history behind there. Like the red and light bulb, there's all these like little hidden details if you know about looking for them. Like I know the big thing right now is they changed Walt's lamp, which is causing a stir.
Oh
no! So you can look that up.
They need to do that like for toddlers, where they have like the replacement one sitting in the background, so they can just swap them. Like the stuffy.
And like Chad was saying, Grand Cal, location.
Yeah,
you just can't
love it there.
With Disney World, there's like you were saying, you can't make it to all the restaurants in one trip, even if you tried. Even you could get the reservations. But at the same time, with Land, with 2 to 3, maybe 4 days, you feel like you had everything you wanted to and you had a satisfying trip. So you don't have that feeling of loss or didn't get to what you wanted to. So I always leave feeling, I'm good. So World, sometimes I'm like, I didn't get to X, which you're looking forward to it the next time, but still you're like, I didn't get to blank, even though I was there for a week and a half,
Yep.
For sure. What about you,
Yeah.
Roxanne?
So one thing I noticed is the extra hours at night is amazing in Disneyland.
Oh,
My
yeah,
son
yeah.
went back from 10 to midnight every night. It was last month, and he said it was walk on. He's like, Mom, I was going from park to back and forth to all the different stuff, hopping. For those 2 hours, I was walking on, very safe because we stayed at Grand Cal, and he just came back at midnight every night. He's 18, but he went by himself because we were just too tired after being rope dropping. And he, my 3 kids, which are teenagers, all liked it more than they thought. They're like, we don't want to go to Disneyland. We go to Disney World every summer. Why would we go to Disneyland? Like, they didn't want to go.
You forced them.
At the end of the week, they were like, oh my God, I love Disneyland. That was the best trip.
Yeah.
And they fought me. So, to try something different was really good. We also had not a drop of rain. We never had the ponchos because we always have the ponchos ready to go in the backpack. It's perfectly sunny and 85 to 95. I mean, I know they were in a drought, but it was amazing. It is blue sky every day. No humidity. I mean, yeah, it's hot. You need sunblock. You're thirsty, but it is not even. It's just perfect weather, picture perfect weather.
Yes, no afternoon thunderstorms.
Skyliners down, Skyliners down.
Nope, none of that nonsense. And the Grand Cal, can I just talk about the bougie hotel pool there? Oh my God, the chairs, the cushions are like this thick, and they're cushions and they're just gorgeous. They're so fancy, those chairs, and so comfortable. I think it's better than the Grand. The villas at Grand Floridian. It's so bougie there, like the pool area. So I was pretty impressed with that. And the pool bar and the whole thing over there was just, and they had the characters. It was so much fun there. But one con I would say for Disneyland is when you're in California, it's such a beautiful state. We wanted to see so much. We did 4 days over in LA, and my kids love that too. And they were like, oh my God, LA is so much fun. The city never sleeps. And that was a big distraction, because they kept talking about LA too, because we did LA first for 4 days, then we did 4 days over in Anaheim at Disneyland, and they kept talking about, so it's a distraction because you want to go to Palm Springs and you want to go to San Francisco and the wine country, and it's just such a great state, and it's hard to focus a little bit.
The natural wonders are taking over the amusement wonders, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
But in 4 days, I felt like I did so much. Some of the things I went on 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
So, you don't feel like that when you go to the World. You feel like I just need another week. I just need another week at the World. Like there's just not enough time at the World. You don't feel like that at Disneyland. You feel like you can do so much, and I feel like way more relaxed at Disneyland.
Since we are my DVC points, we might mention that too, is that there's not much of a presence yet at land.
Yeah.
It's like you say DVC and they're like,
True.
What? They have no idea. So even Moonlight Magic hasn't come back yet, and parties, aren't as much of a thing. Boogie Boogie's pretty awesome, but Top of the World Lounge, it's more of a thing at World.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. And
well,
I feel like
that'll improve with the new lounge that they're supposed to put in.
Yes,
a
new tower.
Excited.
Yes. And then I do feel like when you're at Disney World, there's so much DVC. Like you've got Copper Creek cabins and bungalows and tree houses. There's so many different resorts to try. So that I feel like when you go to Disney World, every trip can be and should be different, especially if you're trying out the different resorts and the different hotels and come up with a different routine so it's not monotonized. And I feel like that is the one thing I really love about the World is it's exciting because you can mix it up. Every trip can be different.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. I think in our case, they're different in different ways. So that 2-3 days that you're at Disneyland, you really do, like you said, feel like you can get everything done, right? Like you've accomplished everything you want to get. So we started off our trip this last session with starting there so that it was out of the way. Done. So we didn't have the kids asking us, when are we going to Disneyland the whole trip? And then we were able to go to different destinations like to Palm Springs and to the Grand Canyon and that sort of stuff. So that was really convenient. I did, however, feel like because you're only planning it for let's say 2-3 days, we did 4, which for most people, that's pretty long at Disneyland, that you're kind of running through your days. Versus when we go to Walt Disney World, we really have the philosophy of we're no longer in that scarcity mentality. We're really into that abundance mentality. So we're like, if we don't hit it this time, then we'll hit it next time. And we usually try and hit a couple of headliners here and there. The new stuff, the kids hadn't been on Ratatouille yet or on Guardians of the Galaxy. So we went on that stuff together for the first time. So that was really great. But we always find ourselves going back to the hotel when we're at Walt Disney World and really enjoying the resort. So the resort really becomes more of the attraction, more of the pull for a Walt Disney World stay, which as DVC members, that's kind of what we want, right?
Yeah.
We
Right.
want to have time to enjoy those resorts. Whereas I don't know how much time you got back at the hotel there, Roxanne, and you guys on your last trip down. But I felt like we were just running constantly. Even when we did go back to the hotel for a quick dip, it was like,
Mhm.
oh, okay, it's been an hour. We got to go back now. So, it's just more of a quick in and out versus the relaxedness of a Walt Disney World vacation. Not to mention all the activities you can do on Walt Disney World Resort, like golf,
Right. Yeah, you don't have all that.
the
And
mini
I
golf,
love
and
resort hopping too.
Disney
Like,
Springs.
yeah, exactly. Monorail hopping, resort hopping. I mean, there's so much to do at Disney World. And like you said, you can't do it all, and it keeps you coming back. And that is why you
Exactly.
keep going back to Disney World, because
That's
you're
why
like,
you got DVC.
yeah, I
Very bad
can't
DVC.
do it all. Yeah, got to go back.
I must say our 3 to 4 nighters though at land less expensive. So there's
Oh,
that
yeah.
too. So we'll do a couple of trips a year rather than one big one.
And then I guess the other part of it is everybody on the West Coast can kind of drive down to land, which is nice. And everybody on the East
Mhm.
Coast is able to drive down to World. So that's definitely a pro if you're
Yes.
trying to economize a little bit on your transportation. So even with the inflated gas prices these days. So
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
for us. Land could be like a 3-day weekend trip
yeah.
where we can get through knowing that we could easily get back if we don't get to something. Why World is a big, like, across the country trip.
Exactly. That's
And vice
it.
versa for you kids on the East
Yeah.
Coast. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
Maybe not so much for me. Wait. All right, let's see what folks have to say about this. So Vicky says, I love both land and world for all the reasons y'all said, and also because you see me at both this year, which is awesome, right?
Oh,
Vicky,
we
we got
love
to hang out at
Vicky.
both this year, which is pretty
She's
cool.
a sweetie.
And then Gina says, pros for land is that it's home. Pros for Walt Disney World is
Week
that
long.
it is a long weekend vacation. That's true. I guess if
Yeah.
if you plan it right, it can be a really nice long weekend. And then Frank says, World is a better vacation, but land wins due to the nostalgia and the importance. If one had to go, it could not be land. That's a good point. And then Andy Reese says, Disneyland is great, but for everyone around me, it was like they were at the mall and had meh attitudes. When I go to Walt Disney World, most everyone around me is wowed by the magic and trying to have a great trip. See, it's interesting that you bring that up, Andy, because I always felt like I have like the reverse when I go to Walt Disney World. Maybe it's just because what I see, but I'm always noticing the families that are kind of like at their last wit's end because they've like pushed themselves commando
Exhausted.
style to like exhaustion and we have, like the meltdowns of the toddlers everywhere. So whereas at land, I found like because so many people are locals there, that they're there for the experience versus like kind of like going to the mall, I guess you could say, right? The kids go to the mall because it's somewhere to hang out. So it becomes their place to hang out. And so they're not necessarily focused on getting on all the attractions the way that we are when we're visiting there from far and away. And it's just got a little bit more of that nighttime and that entertainment going on, especially in the evenings between all the shows and
Yes.
stuff that they run multiple times every evening. So
I love that multiple
yeah,
times.
it's great. Yeah. So then both are great, but I enjoy WDW more. So in all, what do you got? What's your vote?
Disneyland.
It's like, we love them both. There's great things about both.
They are just so different. Yeah, they're both great. But if I had to choose one, I think it's land because it's just what I grew up with. That's the childhood experience.
It feels like home.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Well,
That's-
me being an East Coaster, grew up in Massachusetts. We've driven to Florida so many times and flown there. And I'd have to say World is home, but I'm so glad I've got to experience Disneyland this summer, and I would definitely go back. So
yeah.
loved it.
100%. Well,
Soon as we don't
despite
have to choose.
our attire, Roxanne, I'm going to have to side with you because you as well are wearing your Disneyland gear. We really enjoy just the feeling of home when we're at Walt Disney World. It feels like home. I know that my kids know where everything is there, that they just kind of like skip through it on their own without really with us just following, and they kind of dictate where we go from point A to point B along the way, which is a really nice feeling as a parent to know that your kids are so attached to a place and have such great memories of a location like that. And I hope that it builds memories for years to come for them and possible grandchildren along the way, and our family members that we're not going to, haul along with us down there. So it's going to be a family tradition growing, and hopefully on our end, at least, we'll be able to make it out to land a little bit more often in the years to come now that the kids are a bit bigger. Yep. And so I think that's a good note to end off on. Anybody else want to add anything to that before we sign off?
It's great to have options. It's okay to love them both.
It is. And we love them both. We definitely do. So thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. Our regular host, Chad Pennycuff, couldn't make it. He was out at Halloween Horror Nights at Universal. So we missed him dearly, but I think we managed pretty okay tonight, and we're looking forward to seeing him back next week. So thank you again for joining us, and we hope that you'll join us again next week.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.